As the saying goes, crime knows no age, and it is not apparent when someone commits a crime. Although this is true, one thing that is often seen is that many of the most vicious criminals tend to be people who are teenagers or are between the ages of 18 and 35. However, today, even a 10-year-old kid is considered to be no less than a 35-year-old criminal when it comes to committing crimes. Although it is disturbing, people that listen to crime thrillers tend to enjoy watching these types of cases. That's why in today's video, we're gonna show you some of the most terrifying or wildest crimes done by adults. So make sure to watch this video until the end. During the period of 1974 to 1991, Dennis Rader was a serial killer who was known as the BTK Killer, Blind, Torture, and Kill, who is credited with murdering 10 people in Kansas. During the past 3 decades, Rader terrorized the Kansas community with his crimes, which includes vicious murders and taunting letters written to the police and media. He was born in the mid-40s in Kansas. He grew up in the suburbs of Kansas with no known history of abuse or trauma, and he attended a normal suburban high school. Nonetheless, he exhibited signs of a sadistic and controlling behavior from a very young age, and as a teenager, he became obsessed with the pursuit of voyeurism and having sexual fantasies involving bondage and dominance.
By the time he was in the 8th or 9th grade, he was having sexual dreams and sexual feelings that he knew no other young man was having. He said, by that time, I knew my future. I knew what I was going to be.
Rader began his killing spree in 1974, targeting mainly middle-aged victims who were mainly women who lived near and around Kansas City. After stalking his victims for a period of time or even years, he would gather information about the day-to-day routines and vulnerabilities of each victim before murdering them in their homes.
I had many, what I call them projects. There were different people in the town that I followed, watched.
Went to the library, I looked up their names, address, cross-referenced, and called them a couple of times. Drove by there whenever I could.
During his crimes, he would bind, torture, and kill his victims and the media with letters and hints about the crimes he committed, all signed with the initials BTK. He was nicknamed BTK by the local press as a result of his communications, in which he described his killings in graphic detail and offered clues to potential future killings. His letters to media and police added a chilling component to the case that made it even more terrifying for the citizens of Kansas.
He himself, the following day, reports the murder to the police.
He called us on a payphone and informed us that we would find a homicide and gave us the address.
You will find a homicide at 43 South Pershing, Nancy Fox.
Over the course of over 30 years, Rader eluded capture despite an intense manhunt and the investigation of thousands of leads which were aimed at catching him. As a matter of fact, he was spotted again in 2004, sending letters and clues to the police and media to rekindle the investigation. However, in February 2005, DNA evidence found on Rader's computer, as well as on a floppy disk and a printer, led to his identification and his arrest. He was arrested and later pleaded guilty to all 10 counts of murder. It was sentenced that he be sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms in prison, with no possibility of parole in the future. It is evident that Rader's crimes caused a lot of fear and trauma for the people of Kansas, particularly for the families of those whom he killed. The tragic story of his life serves as a chilling reminder of the evil that can lurk behind even the most normal and unremarkable of exteriors. In addition, it illustrates the long-term effects of serial killers to the public consciousness, whose crimes remain in the public consciousness for decades, even after they have been arrested and brought to justice. As well as that, it also illustrates how technology and modern forensic methods can help to solve cold cases and bring criminals to justice through the use of technology. Regardless, coming to the next crime. Gerald John Schaefer, also known as the Killer Priest, was a serial killer and former police officer who committed a string of murders in Florida during the 1960s and 70s. He conducted a series of horrific crimes, including brutal murders and the mutilation of his victims, which shocked and terrified residents of Florida for decades to come. In 1946, Schaefer was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and at an early age, he developed an interest in the occult, sadomasochism, and material culture. He graduated from Florida Atlantic University with a degree in English, and later went on to become a police officer in Martin County, Florida. However, because he fabricated stories and exaggerated his accomplishments on numerous occasions in his career as a police officer, his time as a police officer was short-lived. During the early 1970s, Schaefer began his killing spree, which targeted young women and girls in particular. He was known for his brutal methods of murder, including strangulation, stabbing, and mutilation of his victims. In 1973, he was arrested and convicted of the murder of two teenage girls, Susan Place and Georgia Jessup, whose bodies were found in the Everglades, and it has been decided that Schaefer will be sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of life imprisonment. However, it is believed that Schaefer may have been responsible for a large number of murders as well. When he was in prison, he would often boast about his crimes to other inmates. In fact, he even wrote a book about the murders he committed during his time in prison. In his book, he spoke about how he had a fantasy about murdering women and girls. And as far as his case is concerned, it appears that this case may be linked to a number of unsolved murders that have been committed in the area during the same period of time, such as the Colonel murders and the Florida Slayer crimes. It was also suspected that Schaefer played a role in the disappearances of several other young women, but there was no physical evidence to support this theory, so Schaefer's guilt could not be proved. It was in 1973 that Schaefer died in prison, where he was awaiting the verdict of several other murder charges against him. Despite the fact that the official cause of death was listed as blunt force trauma to the head, there is a suspicion that he might have been killed by other inmates. Surprisingly, his death has brought little comfort to the families of his victims who, to this day, still long for closure and justice for their loved ones who were taken away from them through his bad actions. It is Schaefer's story that serves as a reminder of the brutality and senseless violence that some individuals are capable of committing, and of the lasting effects that such violence can have on the lives of the people who are affected by such violence. Also, it is a reminder of the evil that can exist in seemingly normal and average individuals, and the importance of holding people responsible for their actions, no matter their backgrounds or professions. So that concludes our video. What are your thoughts on it? Please share with us in the comments below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and make sure to subscribe to our next channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one. Until then, peace.